All right, yo, welcome to episode 4 of Vibes&Pipettors. We have today the beautiful and talented Ms Jonique Depina, who is an old friend from college. So we went to UMass Boston together, graduated in 2018, and Jonique was in the pre-med program with me. And through that, I got to know her and got to get an insight into her life and what she's doing with to get into like the next stages. So today, Jonique will be talking to us about her extracurricular activities, specifically being a yoga instructor, doing a whole lot of skincare routine, and she's really gonna like blow your mind with everything she does, and how she like takes care of herself and really primes herself to be the best person she can be. So I'm gonna let you take the floor.
All right. So yeah, my name is Jonique. Right now I'm doing cancer research. I'm also a graduate teaching assistant, and like Jude said, I also teach yoga. I have been doing yoga for I think about almost 12 years now. I know someone asked me this recently and I said 10, but I was actually calculating it and I'm pretty sure it's 12 years. And I started back in high school, and I used to go to our local YMCA, which was across the street from my high school, because my mom would take my sister and I to the gym after work, but I always got out before she did. And yoga was just one of the classes that was available by the time I got out of school. And
Okay.
I took one class and I was like hooked. I really enjoyed kind of the serenity of it, but also how it gave me kind of a gentle workout. And then I went home, I found more YouTube videos. I like downloaded every single like yoga app that I could find, and I just started getting into it. And I got into kind of the other types of yoga. So the
How many types
main
of yoga are there?
so there's like the regular yoga, which has a more spiritual background to it in
Okay.
terms of it's really focusing on you kind of getting rid of worldly things and materialism, really focusing in on your higher self and just really connecting and grounding to yourself. And then there's more of the kind of westernized, I guess, types of yoga, which are kind of like hot yoga, yoga sculpt, goat yoga, beer yoga. There's like all different kinds.
Is Pilates yoga or no?
Pilates is different. So Pilates doesn't
Okay.
really incorporate any of the spiritual aspect that yoga
Okay.
does. Pilates is its own kind of workout, but the movements are fairly similar.
Okay.
But I do both. I would like to get a Pilates instructor certification at some point, but it is quite expensive. Just like yoga teacher training was quite expensive, but
Oh
I
wow.
was
Wait, are you
fortunate.
certified as a yoga
Yeah, so
teacher?
I'm
Oh wow.
certified
Okay,
in
that's
my
cool.
200-hour and yoga sculpt, and I got it through a BIPOC scholarship, actually. So a yoga brand that I follow called Beyond Yoga was hosting this scholarship to bring more diversity into the yoga space because it is predominantly white.
Right.
And so they were hosting this scholarship, and I applied for it and I got it. I also applied for the Core Power Yoga scholarship, which was also to kind of bring in more BIPOC people into the yoga space. And essentially, you just kind of had to talk about your experience with yoga, why you want to be a teacher, how you would plan on bringing diversity into the space. And I got that too, and I was able to kind of get my tuition covered, which was really great. And I guess kind of how I've been bringing diversity into that space is that in what I do is that I offer community yoga classes throughout Boston.
Oh, okay.
So my classes are completely free. And if you've ever taken a yoga class or you are a part of a yoga studio, you will definitely know that it is not cheap. It is quite expensive, and they usually tend to be in kind of, at least in Boston, bougier areas of the
Okay.
town. And so I have offered a variety of different classes from chair yoga for elderly people.
Oh
I
wow.
would do it at the Boston Public Library in different parts throughout Boston. I did one recently that was kind of in the Dorchester area, which is predominantly Black. And so a lot of the people that came to my classes were just older Black women, which was really fun. And I got to kind of teach them about chair yoga and the benefits of it and how they can incorporate it into their daily lives, and how it's just nice to have even like 30 minutes or 10 minutes of movement to
Okay.
just incorporate that into their day.
I have a small question.
Yeah.
So those people that show up to your class, are they mostly like first timers, or are there people that have experienced some sort of yoga? And also the second question, or a part of the question is, as they're discovering these new things, how does that, I don't know, how does it feel to like show them this new, I don't know, part of themselves or part of the world that they can tap
Yeah,
into?
so a majority of my people I feel like that come to my classes generally tend to be first timers. A lot of them mentioned where it was just like, oh, like this is my first time doing it. Like I've always wanted to try, but I just either can't get to class or I just can't afford a class. So it's always just nice being able and knowing that I can offer that to them and providing them with kind of the resources in terms of if I'm not going to be their teacher for a long term, this is what they can do and this is where they can find other classes if they want to use YouTube or stuff like that, because I have tons. Like I've just done so many on YouTube. So I'm always
Okay.
telling people how to do it and where they
Okay.
can find it.
So
But
you're
yeah,
not only, I like that you're not only trying to like hold their attention, but you're also kind of showing them different way they can like reach out or learn more about the practices. That's very
yeah,
cool.
I think it's really important to do that because they may not want to stick with me and that's fine. Like I'm not going to be
Not
everyone's
offended.
cup of tea. Yeah, it's not the point. My whole thing with yoga is just trying to spread it to everyone as best as I can. I know that yoga has a more spiritual aspect to it, and I know for some people, especially if they come from a Christian background. I was actually in college where I learned this. One of the deans, like admin, I told her about yoga and she was like, oh, I'd love to do it, but I'm Christian. And I was like, well, what does that have anything to do with being able to practice yoga? And I guess due to how yoga is in terms of the poses and like the names of certain poses, they're
Oh.
technically like a salutation to a specific god. So it's like you'll have sun salutation A, and you'll be kind of offering up your spirit to the specific gods of that pose. And so I was like, oh, I never knew that. Like, that's really interesting. So I try to kind of take that component out just so that it feels comfortable for everyone, regardless of their
Okay.
religious background.
Oh, are there some poses you take out based on like, I don't know, the spiritual
I
meaning
just
or
don't
attachment
I just don't focus on like the religious attachment to it.
aspects of it? Okay.
Yeah. So it's like I'll still keep the poses in, but I just don't focus on the more spiritual religious aspect of it.
Okay.
I focus more on kind of the self-care aspect of
Okay.
focusing on our breath, being reminded that our breath is always there to ground us. And, when times get tough or whenever we're stressed, you might notice that you start having this really shallow breathing. You're starting to get anxious, your heart's racing. So I always try to remind people about how to bring themselves back down and being reminded that the number one thing that we can always trust and know that will always be there is our breath. And so I try to focus more on that aspect of yoga in terms of breath technique and, mobility and flexibility and stuff like that, and strength, which I feel like people forget that yoga is quite strength building and strength heavy, since you are moving your whole body on like your hands and feet.
It's awesome. This is awesome. Like you open the doors of yoga to like a lot of people, and like you're sort of modifying it to like, just attain the best like, inclusion and retention rate. So I definitely gotta attend one of your classes. Like after hearing.
Yeah, I
Same.
definitely want to, huh?
The
Yes.
same.
Yeah, I definitely want to, maybe when
Sign
I
us
get like a
up.
bigger apartment, be able to offer like virtual classes, because I feel like that would just really allow me to access so many different people and just so many other people across the world that just can't or don't have access to yoga. So that is on my list of something to do, but maybe when I get a bigger apartment.
Sign us up. Like we're ready whenever. Like I'm probably
Yay!
gonna be in Boston soon, so I'll let you know.
Oh, exciting!
Yeah. Do you do weekends?
Yes, so I do my vinyasa flow, which is more mat focused and kind of strength. And sometimes I do like a yin style class, which is just a slower version of yoga, is on Sundays.
Okay. Nice, nice. Okay, so trying to connect like what you do to like your professional career. Like tell us a little bit about how like practicing yoga over like these past 12 years have affected or impacted like your professional career. Like, does it make you like do better in school? Like are you more focused, more tell us like a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think yoga and just fitness in general has definitely helped in terms of my ability to stay calm. I'm definitely kind of an anxious type A person. So whenever things start going a little bit off path, I start panicking. I'm like, oh my God, like what is going on? And especially during my grad program, I definitely found yoga and running to be kind of a great release, especially if I was studying and I was just getting overwhelmed or I was just getting tired. I would always just go for a run or a walk, or I would do a quick yoga session to just clear my mind and just kind of reset and just realize, maybe things that I was stuck on because I was just blocked in terms of I was tired. I was forcing myself to work beyond when I needed to. And I feel like yoga also forced me to like set boundaries with myself. I feel like when it comes to professional and academics settings, I am always trying to go above and beyond and taking on more things than I know that I really can't take on anymore. And with yoga, there's just so many aspects of it in terms of the point of yoga, and throughout it, you're supposed to listen to your body and you're supposed to listen and realize, maybe this doesn't feel right. I'm going to back off, or, I can really do this. Like, I'm going to try and go a little deeper into this pose. And I feel like I didn't really do that before when it came to, if someone asked me to do something for them, I'd be like, oh yeah, sure. Even though I have like 20 other things to do. So yoga really kind of helped me set that boundary with myself to realize, like, okay, it's 10 o'clock at night. Maybe I should start packing up, going home, and just de-stressing and unwinding, because there's no point in me trying to study anymore because it's just going to go in one ear and out the other. So I feel like it's definitely helped me to kind of relax and just learn to say no.
That's awesome. So basically yoga is like helped you increase your self-awareness, like really help you like know your limitations, like your abilities and your limitations. And that's awesome. I mean, I want to use this as a teaching point for like our audience. Like, I think a lot of like, aspiring like physicians and scientists, like um and just people in general, like young people in general, aren't very like self-aware. Like, like in the age of like, technology and everything, we compare ourselves to others a lot. And a lot of us like really don't know our talents and our abilities. But like a way to like really get around that is doing something like yoga, which can like teach you like, okay, like what can I and what can't I do? What are my boundaries? Like, yes.
Yeah, especially because it's like you may even underestimate yourself too, in terms of maybe you don't want to apply to a lab position because you don't think you're good enough. And it's kind of similar in yoga, where you'll have these really complex poses and you're just like, oh, I can't do that. Like, I've never done that before. But if you take the time to try and just slowly ease yourself into it, you'll be quite surprised with the things that you're capable of doing.
Damn. Sounds like yoga is for me, man.
Yeah, I think it's for everyone.
Gotta
There's
get
like,
into it.
it's
I
for
try I
everyone.
tried though, like in first year, I didn't stick to it.
You have
Yeah.
to find like your style. I think then it'll like click.
Okay, cool, cool. And let's throw in like the other things you do too. I know you're a skincare like enthusiast, something that like
Yeah.
a lot of people are very interested in. So tell us about that too, and how it like impacts your professional career. Like,
Also, a quick
yeah.
question. I mean, following this question, did they all kind of start around the same time, like the skincare, the yoga, or was there one after the other?
It was kind of one after the other. So I feel like my skincare stuff kind of started a little earlier, maybe in like middle school. I feel like everyone, or not everyone, but I feel like a majority of people that get into skincare had some sort of skin issues growing up, and
Okay.
I am one of them. I suffered from a lot of acne, cystic acne, and obviously in turn, because I would pick them, which is the worst thing you can do, I would get the scarring. And I got pretty bad scarring. I scar very easily. And, I would go to the dermatologist, they would give me things. And to be fair, like, I didn't really follow the regimen the way that I should have.
You're in middle school. What?
Yeah. So, like, they would be like, yeah, take this pill twice a day, put on this cream. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like, no. Um, so it just kind of was like always a back and forth of always complaining to my mom, her taking me to the doctor, them giving me meds, and then me not doing anything about it. But within maybe the past, I'd say year or two, my acne started flaring up again, and I was getting really bad cystic acne. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm an adult. I think that I can, start a regimen that a doctor will give me and actually stick to it. And so that's what I did. And the other thing that I would do is that I was always on YouTube. Like I'm a YouTube fiend. I love YouTube and I can find anything that I need on YouTube. And so I was just constantly looking up things like, home remedies, like, I did all of those honey and egg masks to
Wow.
brighten the skin. Don't do that. Don't put food on your
Did that
face.
help you find something that actually worked for you?
No, I don't even think it
okay.
worked. I think it was just kind of like a placebo effect where I was like, yeah, this is totally working. Like, oh my God, it's great. And my mom would be like, where's all of our eggs? And I'm like, oh, on my face. But I think from that, it started gearing me towards like derms that would post their knowledge on YouTube, and they would post, scientific articles. And since when I started getting back into skincare, I was already in college. And so, when they were talking about the more scientific aspects of how acne scarring works, how there's different kinds of acnes, like how the different types of ingredients in skincare are used in the skin, I was a bit more knowledgeable, and I was able to understand what they were talking about. And I think that's kind of what catapulted me back into skincare, is that scientific aspect of it that I just really enjoyed. And I was like, oh, like that's how vitamin C works, or oh, that's how the medicine that my doctor is giving me is working, and how I can use that with other things. And then through that, I kind of became interested in more of the cosmeceutical aspect of skincare. So obviously you have like medical grade that you can get from your derm, but I know that I'm very privileged to even have access to a derm, much less healthcare. And so I know that that isn't always going to be the case for everyone else. And so you'll have over-the-counter stuff that you can buy at Walgreens, CVS, Sephora, stuff like that. And so I started getting into that. And obviously, medical grade stuff may work a little faster, may work a little better, but that doesn't take away from the efficiency and efficacy of stuff that you can find over the counter, which I feel like I tend to use more. And I feel like it also allows me to kind of reach a greater audience of people that just might not be able to have access to a derm, or it might be too expensive for them.
Do you also teach about the skincare routine? Like, do you have like classes like on the side, like after the yoga class, maybe you have like a side
well, that's a great idea. I should start doing that. Normally, I know, it's mental note. I'm making a mental note of
awesome
that.
you are at yoga. I bet you'd be great. Yeah,
I think
you host
so.
like IG lives. I don't know, maybe every Wednesday or something. Like,
yeah,
that'd be
mental
cool.
note. Oh my God, that's a great idea.
That's dope.
But
I'll support for sure.
thank you. Normally, I just kind of post like TikToks or Instagrams of products that I'm using, things that have worked for me, things that don't. I always try to like make mention of my skin type, because obviously there's going to be products that aren't going to work for people that might have oilier skin than me or drier skin than me. I feel like I have kind of a in between, in terms of it's drier in the winter, oilier in the summer, and then in the fall it's just whatever the weather decides, my skin will kind of follow suit. But I always try to also like make the common disclaimer of, I'm not a medical professional. Obviously, try this at your own risk, but I think it is helpful to see people either with similar skin issues, or similar skin type and shade, because that was the other thing too. Like growing up, and even now, I feel like there's not that many people of color, much less like Black women, talking about their skincare routine and how they got rid of their dark marks.
Well, definitely in the niche space. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of skincare enthusiasts, like, skewed towards like, white people. Like, really, we don't have educators like in this space teaching us about like, the difference, like, I guess, like pathologies of Black skin. Like, it's really now that like books are coming out and like you're more like represented and diverse. So shout out to you for that. Yeah,
because I feel like no one really taught about the fact that Black skin is able, or is more likely to scar, and they scar easily, and it takes such a long time to get rid of the scarring. Like it's taken me pretty much almost the past 10-15 years to get rid of all the scarring that I've had. Like it has been a very long journey to get to the skin that I have now. And I feel like that's not really talked about a lot, because like you said, it's mainly white people that are kind of talking about it, which no problem to them, but you know, it's nice to
It's
have
more
someone that looks like
more
you in the
voices.
space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, skin is different, and it's awesome to hear like you actually like basically you're adding knowledge to the world about like darker skin and how to take care of it really. And just an important point about all this, like your self-image really dictates like your confidence and just how you perform like in the outside world. So I think it's really important to like take care of yourself, just like Jonique is doing. Like she really took it upon herself to like not get, I guess, superstitious about her conditions, which like is mostly the case for a lot of like Black people. We don't tend to have a lot of resources to actually understand these situations, so we end up either like harming ourselves even more by like using non-medical, like I guess stuff, using non-medical things, or people just get depressed about it and like lose their self-confidence, their esteem and all that. But I would say like for everyone watching this, like take a note out of Janique's book. Like there are resources out there like YouTube to like learn about things. There's like great educators on skincare like Jonique out there. Follow her on what I'm plugging
You can follow me on
Instagram.
Instagram. I feel like that's where I post the most.
Right. You want to shout out your Instagram?
Oh, sure. It's my name is underscore Jonique. Very original.
G. So yeah, follow her on underscore Jonique, Jonique, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Yep. For all skincare routines you need to know.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a question. So it seems like teaching is like very important to you.
Mhm.
So there's probably been mentors along the way, either science or yoga or people on YouTube that have like, I don't know, inspired you. Would you, I don't know, talk to us about like the process that process of like being inspired by how other people are doing,
Yeah, I
and
think
also what you also mentioned that you're also a graduate teaching assistant. So how do you kind of pass on the information that you've kind of picked up to
yeah.
other
So I
people?
think where my love for teaching and just school in general kind of came from is from my dad. So both of my parents are immigrants, but my dad was always
From
very adamant on having an education.
where are they immigrating from?
So my dad's from Cape Verde, and then my mom is from Jamaica.
Nice.
Yeah, and growing up, like the number one thing that my dad always told me is that always get an education. No one can ever take that away from you. Like at the end of the day, looks will fade, money will go, but you will always have your education. And so that I feel like has always been kind of the driving motivator for me to always just want to do more, want to learn more. So that's kind of where I feel like my love for school and teaching sort of started. And then going through school, I feel like I've always had teachers that were just really supportive of me and were always like willing to help. And if they ever noticed that I was struggling, they always made an effort to either reach out to me or, when I was in elementary school, reach out to my parents and be like, hey, I think Jonique would really benefit from doing this program or coming to me after school, whatever it may be. And I thought that was, like kind of sucked as a kid. It's like, oh, I can't hang out with my friends. I have to go to school. But I feel like that has been really helpful and beneficial for me going forward. And I believe my first teaching position was in college. After I took like Bio 101, my professor reached out to me and was like,
Oh
I think,
wow.
yeah, he was like, I
Must have
think
done pretty
you,
well, huh?
yeah, I would say so. In my humble opinion, I did really well.
Okay.
He reached out to me and he's like, I think that you did really well. I think you would be great as a tutor. And so I went to the library, I signed up to be a tutor, and I tutored all 4 years in general bio. And after I completed genetics, I had the same thing. My genetics professor reached out to me and was like, I think you should be a genetics tutor. And so I did that as well. And I think kind of what I teach my students is the same kind of mantra that my dad taught me is, education is so important. And at the end of the day, that's what you're always going to have. And that's what's always going to, help you through life. And for me, the key thing that I always try to do for my students is I always try to accommodate for them as best as I can, because I know, how I learn things is going to be very different from how you might learn something or how my Jude might learn something. So I always try to see if I am able to quickly pick up on, their type of learning style. Because I know for me, at least, I'm a very visual doer type of learner. Like, I have to do things, I have to see things, and it'll just click. And I'm able to really visualize things really well in my head when it came to kind of more complex, abstract topics. And I know not everyone else can do that. And another thing that I love doing that I feel like helps me and also helps my students is comparing scientific concepts to real life examples. So in past, just today, I was meeting with a couple of students to go over immunology, and I was teaching them about, the different types of antibodies and, how the structure works and how they're different from each other, and like how they're able to recognize, different pathogens and all that stuff. And I was like, this concept is similar to if you like chocolate chip cookies and you go to a bakery and you're in, one state, and all of a sudden you have to move. But you're like, oh, that bakery is local to that state only, but I still want chocolate chip cookies. And you go find a new bakery and you realize, oh, there's chocolate chip cookies there. And I was like, that's kind of how cross reaction works, where you have this one antibody that, it recognizes one antigen, but it also can recognize another antigen. They're just slightly different. And I was like, that's kind of like how the bakery is. You have your one bakery in this state that sells you chocolate chip cookies, but now you're in another state and you have a new bakery. Even though they're not the same bakery, they still sell you chocolate chip cookies. And I was like, that's what I like to do. And I feel like that's
bringing like concepts to life. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because I feel like that, I don't know, I feel like that just makes learning easier.
Yeah, tangible. It makes it feel more tangible.
You don't want to be an academic. You sound very like teacher-y to me right
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it sometimes. I'm like, I can do a PhD. Then I'm like, MD, PhD? I don't know.
I think you can do it.
I think so. Maybe that's where my calling is. Who knows?
Okay, so I know you gotta go soon. Yeah, it's almost okay.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
All right. So what's in your immediate future? What's the rest of the year looks like for you?
So I was telling Jude, right now I'm applying to med school, which is exciting. So hopefully if things work out for me, then they do. And if they don't,
they will.
Then
we'll have you back on celebration party with yoga.
Yes. That's like a big thing. I hope to incorporate yoga into my medical practice too. That's like way far in the future, but I feel like going through yoga and seeing how it's benefited people and benefited myself, I really want to bring that. And I feel like being able to be in a position where I am, fully educated in the body and in the systems, and being able to bring in my extensive knowledge of yoga and just personal practice, I feel like that will really benefit a lot of people, because I feel like there's just so much that you can do with the more holistic side of medicine that I think people don't really know too much about, or we have this idea that holistic medicine is just voodoo witch magic, and it's like, no, holistic medicine can also encapsulate you just taking better care of your health, whether that may be your diet, working out maybe 30 minutes a day or something like that. So I definitely want to be able to incorporate that both in medical school and in the future, because I've been looking at certain schools and their clubs and being like, hey, in my secondary, you don't have a yoga club, and I would love to do that because X, Y, and Z. So that's definitely something that I'd like to do in the future.
Gonna come in with an edge, and and really like start something
yeah. So that's definitely what I want to do. And then my mental note of doing maybe yoga or Instagram lives of either yoga or skincare, that's a great idea. I love that idea.
Yeah, looking forward to it for sure. Yeah, thank you so much, Jonique. This was like super insightful. Like, I bet like so many people would love to like follow you and like follow your journey on skincare, on yoga, and med school in the future.
Yay! I hope so. I love to talk. So,
like currently in the application process?
Yeah, so I've submitted all of my secondaries already, so I'm just kind of in that little waiting game process. So we'll see.
Best of luck, and
thank you.
Have more like many interviews.
Yay! I hope so. Fingers crossed. Thanks. This was so fun.